The first time I stepped into Kenny Eric's penthouse, I felt the weight of a trap closing around me, 40 floors above Miami, wrapped in marble and bulletproof glass, beautiful enough to make you forget you were walking into a predator's den. Miami heat shimmered off the pavement as I stepped out of the Uber, my discount blazer already clinging to my back from the humidity. The high-rise loomed above me, 40 floors of reflective glass catching the sun like a blade. Mrs. Chen, the head housekeeper, had made it clear during my phone interview that this was more than a job. It was survival. Mr. Eric pays well because he expects perfection, she'd said, her tone suggesting she'd seen plenty of girls like me fail. If you can't handle that, don't waste his time. And she was right. With Isaiah's experimental cancer treatment costing $200,000 and my PhD program a distant memory, I couldn't afford pride. As we continue, click subscribe, like this video, and tell me in the comment where you are watching from. Your support helps us bring more thrilling stories, and trust me, you won't want to miss them. Now, let's continue in the story. Pamela Vernon. A security guard in a crisp black suit materialized at the building entrance. His face remained expressionless as he checked my ID against a tablet, sunglasses hiding his eyes despite being indoors. His earpiece crackled with static. "Follow me." The lobby swallowed my footsteps, polished marble reflecting my cheap shoes and oversized blazer back at me. I clutched my worn tote bag tighter, acutely aware of the cameras tracking my every movement and the additional guards positioned near the elevators and stairwells. Mrs. Chen had warned me this wasn't just any wealthy employer. This was Kenny Eric's territory, and his name alone had made my hands tremble during our call. Everyone in Miami knew the Eric family. Their nightclubs, casinos, and restaurants were just the shiny surface of something far darker. There were whispers of gambling operations, protection rackets, and worse, violence that made even corrupt cops look the other way. But desperation makes gamblers of us all. And I told myself I would just polish the marble, stock the wine cellar, and stay out of sight. I wouldn't ask questions. I wouldn't see anything I shouldn't. Mrs. Chen emerged from a private elevator. Her silver-streaked black hair pulled into a tight bun, her expression severe. "You're early," she said, though I'd arrived exactly on time. "Wipe your feet. Mr. Eric doesn't tolerate mess." "Yes, ma'am," I murmured, my voice smaller than I'd intended. "You'll maintain the primary residence," she continued, gesturing toward the elevator as if I hadn't spoken. 40 floors up. You arrive at 6 a.m. when Mr. Eric is still asleep. You leave by noon when he's conducting business downtown. No exceptions, no excuses. Understood? I nodded, though my stomach twisted at the thought of working in the same space as Kenny Eric, even with him unconscious, just rooms away. Your uniform and supplies are in your quarters. You have 20 minutes to change. The staff quarters turned out to be a surprisingly elegant room on the 38th floor, a twin bed with white linens, a small desk, and a window overlooking Biscayne Bay. The walls were cream-colored, the furniture minimal but expensive. It was nicer than my current apartment, which said more about how far I'd fallen than about Kenny Eric's generosity. The uniform waited on the bed, a black dress with white collar and apron, more formal than I'd expected for housekeeping. As I changed, I caught my reflection in the full-length mirror. Dark brown skin showing stress in the shadows under my eyes, natural hair pulled back into a tight bun, the uniform making me look like every other invisible woman who'd scrubbed floors before me. Perfect. That's exactly what I needed to be in a place like this. Unremarkable, forgettable, safe. The penthouse was unnervingly quiet as Mrs. Chen led me through it on that first tour. "Mr. Eric's office is strictly forbidden," she said, nodding toward massive double doors with electronic locks, as is his bedroom suite when occupied. "The living areas, kitchen, guest rooms, and wine cellar are your responsibility." "How will I know when he's awake?" I asked. She gave me a look that suggested the question revealed dangerous ignorance. "You'll know." For 8 weeks, I became a ghost in that golden fortress. I learned the rhythms of Kenny Eric's life without ever seeing the man himself. Arriving in darkness, making Cuban coffee I'd never tasted, setting breakfast I'd never see eaten, leaving before the penthouse came alive with his presence. I scrubbed marble that cost more than my yearly tuition, organized wine bottles worth thousands, dusted art I'd studied in graduate school. I never saw him. But evidence of Kenny Eric was everywhere. Cigar ash in crystal trays, whiskey tumblers with different lipstick shades each week, never the same woman twice, a dress shirt in the hamper once with what looked like blood spatter near the collar. I didn't ask, didn't look closer. I learned his patterns through absence, Spanish business newspapers left open to financial pages, encrypted phones charging by his bed, the lingering scent of expensive cologne mixed with something sharper, like gunpowder or danger itself. But Kenny Eric remained a phantom, a name that made the other staff straighten their spines and drop their voices to whispers whenever it was mentioned. Until that humid Friday morning, exactly 56 days after I started. I was restocking the kitchen with organic produce, my mind wandering to Isaiah's latest scan results, when I didn't notice the change in the air, the sudden weighted silence that fell over the penthouse like a held breath. I heard the voices first, low, male, speaking rapid Spanish I could partially understand from my minor, then footsteps moving with purpose through the living room. Multiple sets, not just one. I froze, produce still in my hands, realization crashing over me like Miami heat. He was home early. I was exactly where I shouldn't be. Abandoning the groceries on the counter, I moved quickly toward the service entrance, praying I could disappear before being noticed. I reached for the handle as quietly as possible, easing it open just enough to slip through. And there he was. Kenny Eric stood less than 15 feet away in the living room, his back to me as he spoke to 3 men in dark suits. Even from behind, he commanded the space in a way that made the air feel thinner. Broad shoulders in an expensive light blue dress shirt, sleeves rolled to reveal forearms marked with ink, a heavy gold chain catching the sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows. He gestured with one hand, while the other rested casually in his pocket, but there was nothing casual about the way the other men stood at attention, hanging on his every word. An ornate wooden chair, more throne than furniture, sat nearby like a reminder of exactly who ruled this kingdom. I should have backed away, should have closed that service door and pretended I'd never seen him. But I stood frozen, watching Kenny Eric in his element, and for one heartbeat, 2, I forgot to breathe. Then one of his men glanced toward the service entrance. I disappeared before our eyes could meet, my pulse hammering in my throat all the way back to my quarters. 8 weeks. That's how long I remained a ghost in Kenny Eric's world. 8 weeks of arriving before dawn, leaving before he noticed, moving through his penthouse like I was made of air. My routine became a ritual. 6 a.m. arrivals, brewing Cuban coffee so strong the scent alone could wake the dead, arranging breakfast on his dining table that I'd never seen eaten. Evidence of Kenny's life surrounded me. Cigar ash in crystal trays, whiskey glasses bearing different lipstick shades each week, never the same woman twice. A dress shirt, once in the hamper with rust-colored stains near the collar that I didn't examine too closely. I learned his patterns through absence, Spanish and English newspapers, encrypted phones charging beside his bed, departures at 8 a.m. sharp. Other staff avoided eye contact with me now. Being assigned to Kenny's private floor marked me as either blessed or cursed. No one seemed certain which. Every Friday, I transferred money to Isaiah's treatment facility and video called my brother, watching color slowly return to his face. The job was working. I was invisible. Safe. Until the morning Mrs. Chen instructed me to dust Kenny's private study. The room dominated by that throne-like chair made my breath catch. Ornate carved wood, positioned before floor-to-ceiling windows like a king surveying his kingdom. Expensive art covered the walls, but it was the painting above his desk that stopped me cold. A black woman in 1920s flapper attire gazed out from the canvas, pearls draped her neck, elegance radiating from every brushstroke. Same bone structure as mine, same deep-set eyes, same full lips. I was staring at myself, 70 years in the past. "You see it too." I spun, duster falling from my hands. Kenny Eric stood in the doorway, studying me with those dark, unreadable eyes. Up close, he was devastating. Neck tattoos revealing themselves as Cuban symbols, gold chain catching light with Eric scripted in the pendant, cologne and cigar smoke creating an intoxicating combination. He gestured to the painting. My abuela, my grandfather's greatest love. She sang at his club in Havana before the revolution. She's beautiful, I managed. Kenny stepped closer. When you walked into your interview, I thought she'd come back to haunt me. His gaze traced my face like he was memorizing it. I don't believe in coincidences, Pamela, but I believe in signs. You look exactly like her. Realization crashed over me. You hired me because of my face. I hired you because you're desperate enough to be trustworthy, educated enough to appreciate what you're seeing, and you look like the only woman who ever made my grandfather vulnerable. His expression hardened into something dangerous. Don't make me regret it. He left without another word. That evening, I researched frantically, finding articles about his grandfather, a famous Cuban nightclub owner with mob connections, his Black American wife who died tragically young. Kenny had been watching me all along. I'd never been invisible. Mrs. Chen found me in the hall. He spoke to you. That's either very good or very dangerous. Time will tell. That night, unable to sleep, I stared at the photo I'd secretly taken of the painting. The resemblance was undeniable. For 8 weeks, I'd been invisible. Now I realized I'd been seen all along, and that terrified me more than anything else in Kenny Eric's dangerous world. 3 days after Kenny revealed why he'd really hired me, Mrs. Chen delivered news that made my stomach drop. I'd be serving drinks at Kenny's exclusive poker night. Don't worry, she said, noting my panic. You'll be invisible again. These men don't see the help. She was wrong. Friday evening, the penthouse transformed. A professional poker table materialized in the main room, surrounded by leather chairs and gleaming with felt. Top-shelf liquor lined the bar, bottles I recognized from my art history studies, worth more than my yearly salary. Security doubled, men in dark suits positioning themselves at every entrance. Mrs. Chen handed me a different uniform, an elegant black dress that hugged my curves while still marking me as staff. 8 guests, she briefed. Serve drinks silently. No eye contact. Don't speak unless spoken to. The guest list whispered through the staff quarters made my blood run cold. Colombian cartel representatives, corrupt Miami politicians, casino owners, nightclub moguls. Marcus, Kenny's second-in-command, a man in his 40s with a scar bisecting his left cheek, supervised the setup with military precision. He pulled me aside. Stay near the walls. Don't get between these men and their money. The guests arrived at 10 p.m. like predators in expensive suits. Luxury watches caught the light. Dangerous energy crackled in the air. I served whiskey, champagne, Cuban cigars, my hands steady despite my racing pulse. Kenny sat at the table's head, commanding and controlled, chips stacking before him. But I felt his eyes track my movements across the room, a heat that made my skin prickle with awareness. Conversation swirled in Spanish, English, Russian, talk of territories, percentages, shipments I pretended not to understand. Then Diego Morales arrived, late, stumbling, reeking of alcohol, Colombian, early 40s, his expensive suit rumpled, eyes too bright with cocaine or rage or both. Kenny's jaw tightened, but he remained controlled. Around midnight, I approached Diego's chair with his requested whiskey. As I set it down, his hand shot out like a snake, fingers clamping around my wrist. "Mira, Mira," he slurred in Spanish, yanking me toward him. "Kenny, you've been hiding this beauty from us." "Sir, please." I tried to pull away professionally. Diego hauled me onto his lap, hand splaying across my thigh. Crude Spanish spilled from his mouth about my body, my skin, what he'd like to do. The room went silent. Humiliation burned my face. Fear locked my muscles, but I forced myself to look at Kenny, seeking help, seeking anything. He sat perfectly still, but something in his dark eyes had transformed into molten rage. "Diego." Kenny's voice was deadly quiet. "Let her go." Diego laughed, hand sliding higher on my thigh. "Come on, hermano. You don't mind sharing the help, do you?" Kenny moved so fast I barely saw it. He grabbed the crystal decanter from the table and brought it down across Diego's hand with a sickening crack. Diego screamed, releasing me. Kenny seized him by the throat, dragging him from the chair. What followed wasn't calculated violence. It was primal, savage, fists and elbows connected with bone. Other guests scattered, hands reaching for concealed weapons, but Marcus blocked them with a raised palm. I stumbled backward, pressed against the wall, watching Kenny destroy Diego with his bare hands. "You touch what's mine!" Kenny roared. "You lose the hand! Touch her again, you lose your life!" Diego collapsed, unconscious, face bloody. Kenny turned to Marcus, chest heaving. "Take him to the river." Everyone understood. Biscayne Bay, a body that would sink. Kenny's eyes found mine across the carnage, still furious, but carrying something else. Possession. Protection. Dangerous obsession. Guests fled. Marcus and 2 guards dragged Diego's limp form toward the service elevator. Kenny disappeared into his office without a word. Mrs. Chen appeared at my side, steadying my trembling frame. "Pack a bag. You're moving to the master wing tonight. Mr. Eric's orders." Alone in my quarters, hands still shaking, realization crashed over me. He said, "What's mine?" Not "my employee" or "my staff." What's mine? I'd wanted to be invisible. Now I was the most dangerous thing in Kenny Eric's world, the woman he'd lost control to protect. Diego Morales didn't die in the Miami River. That was Kenny's first mistake. The second was assuming the Colombian cartel would let the insult go unanswered. By sunrise, everything changed. At 3 a.m., I was relocated to Kenny's master wing with only my essentials. The suite was massive, minimalist luxury with floor-to-ceiling windows, a separate sitting area, and my own attached bedroom. 4 armed guards took positions outside, never leaving. Kenny appeared in the doorway, still wearing his blood-stained shirt from the poker night. "You stay here now. Don't leave without security." I found my voice. "You can't just imprison me." He closed the distance between us, standing close enough that I could see the flecks of gold in his dark eyes. "I'm protecting you. Diego works for the Medellin cartel. You think I'm dangerous? They'll skin you alive to send me a message." "Why do you even care? I'm just your maid." His hand cupped my face, thumb brushing my cheekbone. "You stopped being just anything the moment I saw my abuela's face in yours." He dropped his hand, stepping back. "Get some sleep. Tomorrow, things get complicated." Morning brought the video message. Kenny's phone buzzed as we sat across from each other at breakfast. His expression darkened as he watched, then turned the screen toward me. 3 men in expensive suits, faces partially obscured, spoke in rapid Spanish. "Surrender Pamela Vernon for public execution within 72 hours, or face full-scale war." Marcus burst in moments later, flanked by 5 of Kenny's lieutenants. "Boss, she's not worth starting a war over," Marcus urged. "We can relocate her. Money, new identity, clean slate." The other men nodded agreement, already strategizing my disappearance. Kenny's response silenced the room. "Come take her if you can." He recorded his reply right there, voice deadly calm. "Diego touched what belongs to me. He paid with his freedom. You want the woman? You'll pay with your lives. I'm done negotiating." He sent it without hesitation. Marcus stared. "You're choosing her over the organization." "I'm choosing to show strength. We don't negotiate with threats." But later, alone with me, his mask cracked. "I won't let them touch you. I'd rather burn Miami to the ground." The next 3 days transformed the penthouse into a war headquarters. Trapped in luxury, I watched Kenny coordinate defenses, positioning guards, calling in favors, preparing weapons caches I'd never known existed. We couldn't leave, couldn't contact anyone. Kenny said all phones were monitored. Forced proximity revealed a different Kenny. He read architecture books at night, listened to old Cuban jazz. His grandmother's music, he explained, showed me faded family photos of a woman who could have been my twin. One evening, sharing whiskey as sirens wailed far below, I asked, "Why did you really hire me, Kenny?" He studied his glass. "When I saw you, I saw a second chance. My grandfather lost his great love young, spent his life building an empire to honor her memory. I thought maybe—" He didn't finish. Night 3 brought gunfire at ground level. I rushed to the windows, watching Kenny's security repel a cartel assault team. 2 guards fell wounded before reinforcements arrived. Miami police showed up 20 minutes late, long enough to be useless, short enough to maintain appearances. Kenny found me at the window. "They're testing defenses. Real attack comes next." "Let me go," I whispered. "I'll negotiate myself." "You don't understand." His voice broke slightly. "I can't. I won't." That night, unable to sleep, I found him in his office surrounded by security monitors and weapon schematics. I didn't speak, just sat in the chair across from his desk. "You should hate me," he said without looking up. "I made you a target. You're also the only person who's ever fought for me. My father left. My friends disappeared when Isaiah got sick. You barely know me, and you started a war." "Maybe that makes you crazy," I continued. "Or maybe—" I didn't finish. Didn't know how to say that maybe it made him exactly what I'd been searching for my entire life, someone who saw me and refused to look away. 6 days into the lockdown, cabin fever set in. I'd cleaned every surface twice, reorganized Kenny's wine collection, even dusted his grandmother's painting 3 times. I wasn't built for cages, even golden ones. That's when Kenny made a mistake. He took me outside. "We can't hide forever," Kenny told Marcus on day 7. "She needs air." Marcus objected, but Kenny overruled him. High-end Cuban restaurant, private back room, 4 guards positioned strategically. Kenny had clothes sent up, an elegant emerald dress that hugged my curves, jewelry that felt like playing dress-up in someone else's life. Over arroz con pollo and mojitos, Kenny asked about my PhD research. I opened up about Renaissance art, my thesis on women artists erased from history, talented painters whose work was attributed to men, their names forgotten. "Women who should have been visible but were made invisible," Kenny said, dark eyes intent. "Like you." The observation struck something deep. For the first time, I saw past the violence and power to the man underneath. His phone buzzed. Marcus warning about suspicious activity outside. We left through the back exit toward the armored car. 3 men emerged from shadows. Gunfire shattered the night. Kenny's guards returned fire, but one fell immediately. Kenny pushed me behind the car, weapon drawn. Through the chaos, I saw an assassin circling around Kenny's blind side, gun rising toward his unprotected back. I didn't think so. Dropped low, hands finding the backup gun strapped to Kenny's ankle. I'd noticed it during our forced proximity, the weight creating an asymmetry in his stance. Aimed. Fired. The assassin fell. Kenny spun, shock written across his face. "Where did you—" "My father was in the army," I managed, hands shaking violently. "Shooting range was our bonding time." Marcus and the remaining guards eliminated the other attackers. But Kenny just stared at me, reassessing everything he thought he knew. Back at the penthouse, reality crashed down. I'd killed someone. Kenny found me on the balcony, brought whiskey. "First time?" he asked gently. I nodded, unable to stop trembling. "You saved my life. I didn't want to watch you die. You're not the helpless victim I thought I was protecting." His hand cupped my cheek, thumb brushing away a tear I hadn't realized had fallen. You're extraordinary, Pamela Vernon. The moment stretched between us, charged with possibility. He leaned closer, and I didn't pull away. But Marcus's urgent footsteps broke the spell. While Kenny dealt with new intelligence, restless energy drove me exploring. I found an office I'd never cleaned, door slightly ajar, unusual for meticulous Kenny. Inside, architectural models, business plans, legal documents. Eric Luxury Hotels and Resorts, worth $500 million. Plans for Miami Beach renovations, Caribbean expansions. You've been planning an exit, I said when Kenny found me. For 5 years. My grandfather built an empire on blood. I wanted to build one on beauty. He gestured to the models. Hotels, resorts, restaurants, legitimate legacy. Then why stay in the game? Because leaving the mafia isn't like quitting a job. You need leverage, timing, clean break. His eyes found mine. I've been waiting for the right moment, or the right reason. He showed me his favorite design, a historic Art Deco hotel renovation. My expertise emerged naturally, pointing out period details he'd missed, suggesting improvements that made his face light up. I need a creative director for this project, he said. Someone who understands art, history, and beauty. Are you offering me a job or a partnership? Whichever you'll accept. The unspoken truth settled between us. I was no longer just the maid he was protecting. I was becoming his equal. For 48 hours after the restaurant ambush, nothing happened. No attacks, no threats, radio silence from the cartel. Kenny's people whispered the word ceasefire, but Kenny knew better. Silence before a storm isn't peace. It's predators circling, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. 2 weeks into lockdown, Kenny finally allowed me a supervised video call with Isaiah. My brother looked better, treatment working, color returning to his face. Emotion choked me. I hadn't told him about the danger. Your money saved my life, Pam, Isaiah said. Whatever you're doing at that job, thank you. But something was off. He wouldn't meet my eyes through the screen. After the call ended, I confronted Kenny. Can I see him? In person? He hesitated. Not safe yet. Soon. He's all I have. You have me now, too. That night, Kenny's phone shattered the fragile peace. Marcus on speaker. Boss, we found the leak. You're not going to like it. They brought Isaiah to the penthouse, scared, guilty, avoiding my gaze. What's going on? My voice cracked. Tell her, Marcus commanded. Isaiah broke down. Diego Morales had approached him 3 weeks ago before the poker night, offered $50,000 for information about my routine, my schedule, Kenny's attachment to me. I needed money for treatment, Isaiah sobbed. They said they just wanted insurance against Kenny. I didn't know they'd... The intel he provided led directly to the restaurant ambush. You sold me out. The words tasted like ash. Your own sister. I was dying, Pam. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Kenny remained silent, watching. Marcus asked, What do you want done with him? Kenny's voice was quiet. Your call. He's your family. I told Marcus to take Isaiah to a guest room under guard. Alone with Kenny, I asked, What would you do? Cut him loose. Blood doesn't mean loyalty. He's all I have left of our family. He gave you to Diego. Diego would have killed you. The truth settled like lead in my stomach. But you wouldn't. You'd never hurt me. No, I wouldn't. My decision came swift and final. Let him finish treatment. Then he's gone from my life. You're stronger than you know. I'm learning from you. The alert came an hour later. Diego Morales spotted alive in Miami Beach. He hadn't drowned. He'd survived, waited, rebuilt cartel support. Marcus delivered worse news. Diego had orchestrated everything. He'd found old newspaper articles about Kenny's grandfather's obsession with his Black American wife. Calculated that Kenny would develop the same vulnerability. The poker night wasn't drunken aggression, it was a test. Diego touched me deliberately to trigger Kenny's loss of control. He's been studying me for years, Kenny realized, waiting for weakness. The video message arrived minutes later. Diego's face filled the screen, scarred but smiling. You love her like your grandfather loved his woman. That makes you weak. Tomorrow, I take everything from you, starting with her. Footage showed his men surrounding the building. Helicopters on standby, full assault at dawn. Kenny turned to me. I can still get you out. Private plane, new identity, anywhere in the world. I picked up the gun he'd given me after the restaurant. I'm not running. Not from him. Not from you. We fight together. You've never been just a maid, have you? And you've never been just a monster. They came at sunrise, because killers love the irony of death arriving with the light. Diego's cartel surrounded Kenny's building like a noose tightening. Ground forces, sniper positions, and a helicopter circling above. We were 40 floors up with limited ammunition and time running out. But Kenny Eric didn't build his empire by surrendering, and I'd stopped being the woman who ran away. At 5 a.m., we barricaded in Kenny's office. Kenny, Marcus, 4 loyal guards, and me. Building security engaged below. The ground floor was holding, but wouldn't last. The helicopter's rotors echoed through bulletproof glass. Kenny distributed weapons with military precision. Marcus voiced what we all knew. We can't fight them all, boss. Then we make them pay for every floor they climb. Kenny turned to me. Last chance. I can get you to the panic room. I loaded my gun with steady hands. I'm done hiding. Pride and fear warred in his expression. He pulled me close. If this goes wrong, it won't. We will end this together. Gunfire erupted in the lobby. Cartel forces breached. Kenny's men fought floor by floor, buying precious time. We moved toward rooftop access, the helicopter our last escape if needed. Marcus and 2 guards flanked us. Kenny's rooftop garden greeted us with tropical plants and a panoramic Miami view. The approaching helicopter grew louder. Kenny positioned himself in front of me. If that's Diego, he wants me to watch you die before he kills me. The helicopter landed. Diego emerged with 4 armed men, his hand in a cast from Kenny's decanter, face scarred from the beating. He shouted over the rotor noise, "Kenny, I've got a gift for you!" His men opened fire. Marcus fell. Guards scrambled for cover. In the chaos, Diego moved like a snake, grabbing me from behind, gun pressed to my temple. "Stop, or I paint this rooftop with her brains!" Kenny froze, weapon trained, but no clean shot. Diego backed toward the helicopter, using me as a shield. "You destroyed my hand for touching what's yours. Now I'll destroy what you love most." I saw Kenny's face, raw fear, control shattered completely. Kenny dropped his weapon. "Take me instead. Let her go, Diego, please." Diego laughed. "Begging? The great Kenny Eric begging?" Kenny dropped to his knees, hands raised, vulnerable and broken. "She's worth more than my life, my empire, everything I've built. Take me instead. I'm the one you want." Diego's voice dripped with satisfaction. "See? I knew he'd fall for you, just like his grandfather fell for your twin." Understanding crystallized. This was psychological warfare, and Diego had made one mistake. He was too busy savoring Kenny's surrender to notice my training. I slammed my head backward into Diego's nose. His grip loosened. I dropped. Hidden rooftop security activated, automated turret guns Kenny never mentioned. Diego's men fell. Diego stumbled toward the helipad edge, firing wildly at Kenny. Missing. Kenny tackled him. They fought on the precipice, both bloodied and brutal. "You made one mistake," Kenny snarled. "You thought love was weakness. It's the only reason I'm still breathing." His final blow sent Diego backward off the rooftop. Diego chose death over capture, disappearing over the edge. Kenny grabbed me as I nearly followed, pulling me back to safety. Sirens wailed below. Diego's body lay 40 floors down. Cartel forces surrendered. Kenny and I collapsed among the rooftop plants, bloodied and alive, watching sunrise paint Miami gold. "I lost control that night because I couldn't bear another man's hands on you," Kenny said. I'd burn Miami to the ground before I let anyone hurt you again. You didn't lose control. You found something worth fighting for. He kissed me then. Desperate, grateful, alive. Our first real kiss tasted like survival. Marcus, wounded but breathing, interrupted. Boss, cartel leadership wants to negotiate peace. Kenny didn't look away from me. Tell them we accept. On our terms. They say time heals all wounds. I don't know about that. I still have scars from Diego's gun pressed to my temple, still wake up sometimes feeling that rooftop wind. But 6 months after the war ended, I learned something more important. Time transforms. And Kenny, Eric, and I were living proof. I live in an elegant Miami Beach apartment now. My choice. My business card read, Executive Assistant and Creative Director, Eric Luxury Hotels. I was actually using my art history degree, overseeing the restoration of a historic property that made my academic heart sing. Isaiah and I video called weekly. His treatment had worked, remission holding strong. We were rebuilding our relationship slowly, with boundaries. Kenny and I still saw each other regularly. Business dinners became real dates. I was no longer invisible, no longer just the maid. Though sometimes, in quiet moments, I missed the simplicity of those early days. Kenny had transformed too. He'd systematically legitimized his empire, selling criminal operations to Marcus, who ran them clean. No more drugs, trafficking, extortion. He focused on hotels and nightclubs going legitimate. He attended city council meetings, donated to charities, became the businessman his grandfather had pretended to be. But he kept one vestige of his old life, the ornate throne chair in his office, where he still sat during our business meetings. 6 months after the rooftop, he called me to his office for an urgent business discussion. I arrived in professional attire, maintaining the boundaries we'd established. Kenny sat in his throne, looking nervous. I'd never seen him nervous. Sit down, please. I sat across from him, confused by his unusual demeanor. Kenny stood, then did something that stole my breath. He knelt beside the chair and pulled me gently to sit in the throne instead. You've been standing while I sat for too long. It's time you took your rightful place. He revealed he'd bought the historic Art Deco hotel I'd fallen in love with during our planning sessions. I want you to redesign it, not as my employee, as my partner. Equal ownership, equal say, equal power. Then came the ring, an emerald that matched my eyes. Marry me, Pamela, not because I own you, but because I choose you, and I hope you choose me back. Tears blurred my vision. I have conditions. Anything. I finished my PhD. We run this business together, true partners. No more secrets, no more mafia ties. Done, all of it. You made me want to be better. Let me spend my life proving I can be. Yes, but I'm keeping my name, Vernon Eric Hotels. His smile transformed his face. I wouldn't have it any other way. 1 year later, the Vernon Eric Hotel Miami opened to acclaim. The rooftop garden, rebuilt where we'd nearly died, hosted our wedding. Marcus stood as best man. Mrs. Chen, matron of honor. Isaiah, healthy and grateful, walked me down the aisle. Former enemies attended, now allies respecting Kenny's transformation. We exchanged vows where blood had once stained marble. You were never just my maid, Kenny said. You were the woman who taught a king to kneel, who showed me love isn't weakness, it's the only real strength. You were never just a monster, I replied. You were the man who fought a war for me, who chose transformation over power, who made me visible when I'd spent my life hiding. Later, in our penthouse suite atop the hotel, the throne chair sat in the corner as art. I don't need a throne anymore, Kenny said. I just need you beside me. I pulled him close. Remember when I was just your maid? When you didn't even notice I existed? I noticed. From the first day. I was just too afraid to admit that someone could matter that much. We stood at the windows overlooking Miami. Our city now, Our empire built on beauty instead of blood. We really did it, Maid and Monster to equal partners. More than equals. You run the creative side, I run operations. This empire is yours as much as mine. They say dangerous men don't change, but maybe they just need the right reason. And Pamela Vernon was mine. Where are you watching from? Drop your country or city in the comment below. If you love this story of survival, protection, and unexpected love, subscribe to our channel for more dark romance tales. Hit that notification bell so you never miss a new story.